Hey friends! Today I wanted to do a little video talking about the Bibles that I'm planning on using in 2026, as well as some of the Bible studies I want to do and just kind of faith goals in general, for lack of a better term. So let's get right into it. And the overall Bible reading plan that I'm doing this year is Felicia Masonheimer's Bible in a Year plan. Her business is Every Woman a Theologian. I love her. I'm so excited to walk through this with her community. And I was originally not going to do a Bible in a Year plan this year, but I decided, what the heck, it's like 15 minutes per day to read the whole Bible in a year. And to go through that, I am using this journaling study Bible. This is an ESV Bible. The ESV is kind of my favorite translation just because it was the first one I ever used, and I'm kind of attached to it for that reason, no other reason. But this is a really gorgeous Bible. The tabs are from the Daily Grace Co. They're the Magnolia Bible tabs, and you can see they're kind of like sepia toned highlights and charts and things like that. So it's not full color back here, but there are some full color maps in the back of the book, which I always really appreciate. I like to flip back and forth and see where we are. So that's a brand new Bible for this year, because last year I was using the ESV Women's Study Bible. And while there's nothing wrong with that Bible, it's a great Bible. It's actually more beautiful than my new Bible because it has these gorgeous illuminated pages. It's gold foiled, so it's kind of shiny, and I just love the design a lot more. But there's just not a lot of room to write. So I was reading it and I was really glad to have the study notes, but I love to journal in my Bible, and I just knew I was going to need more space. For this, I was trying to take notes in a separate journal, and that just didn't work for me at all. I need to write it directly on the page, or else I'm just going to fall out of using it. So I'm taking out my tassel bookmark and officially passing the torch to my new Bible for this year, and I'm so excited to just really live in this Bible. I have been dying for a journaling study Bible since I became a Christian. I was like, okay, there's journaling Bibles and there's study Bibles, but I need both. And now I have both in one. The people at the ESV heard my pleas. So I'm really excited. And I feel like some people will be bothered about the fact that him is not capitalized on the cover of this, but it just doesn't really bother me. It's not capitalized in the text of my Bible either in this translation, so it is what it is. So that is my sort of daily study Bible. And then I am also planning on kind of speed reading the Bible in 90 days at some point during this year, because I found this past year, while I was trying desperately to catch up on my Bible reading plan and failing, that reading it quickly actually makes more sense to me. Quickly and chronologically. That part's important, because usually if I'm reading the Bible chronologically, that it's like months between Genesis and First Samuel or whatever. So by the time I get there, I've kind of forgotten the overarching story of Scripture. And so to do this, I'm going to be using the Timeline Bible. And as you can see on every single page down here, it has a timeline of all of Scripture. So you know at a glance where you are in the grand scheme. And this is also a chronological Bible, so it has the passages kind of next to each other if they're occurring at the same time, which I really, really love, because for my brain, I just need context in order for anything to make sense. And that has been a real weakness in my Bible reading so far. I can't remember things that are happening at the same time. I'm reading the prophets and it's completely disconnected from what I was reading in Kings when the prophets were actually prophesizing, whatever. So I'm so excited to use this Bible. This one just came out and I filmed a full review of it that I'm going to upload. Not sure if that one's coming before this one, but if you want to look deeper at this Bible, it was not sent to me. I bought it with my own money, but I was just so excited because I think that it's perfectly tailored to my own Bible study needs. So that will be for kind of speed reading / reading multiple books at one time in chronological order at some point later this year. And I forgot to mention that I have this little pink Bible case. This is just from Amazon. It's super basic, but I have a toddler and he gets into everything. So I need to keep my Bibles inside of a case of some kind, or else they just get so banged up so quickly. So I'm keeping this in here for extra protection. And then I'm putting this whole case in my quiet time basket, along with the NIV Bible, the Timeline Bible that I just showed, which has its own little case and the shop that I got it from closed down, so I can't link it to you. I'm sorry. Next up, we have my Bible bag here because this is the Bible that I take to church and Bible study with me. Basically, anytime I need a Bible outside of the house, I bring this bag and this Bible. And this right here is just my sermon notes notebook, nothing fancy. But this Bible is the ESV single column journaling Bible. It's in the faux brown leather cover, just super basic. These are the crosstabs from the Daily Grace Co. And this Bible is very utilitarian, I guess. I mean, it's lovely because all Bibles are lovely, but there's no color anywhere in here. I don't think there's even any maps. Confirmed there are no maps. I just flipped through it to double check, but it just is a really nice journaling Bible. The paper is really nice. It doesn't smudge for me. It takes all my pens and markers and highlighters really well. And I just bring this and I take my sermon notes directly in the Bible when our sermon has something to do with scripture, specifically if it's about like a specific passage. If it's more of an overarching theme, I'll take notes on it in my notebook. But that is what I use this Bible for, and I will continue to use that in 2026. That's probably my favorite Bible I own because it's just so comfortable to use, and I'm just very fond of it. Okay, so this next Bible is a Bible that I don't really use right now, but plan to in 2026. And that is this Jesus Bible. It is the NIV translation, and it's this light blue color. I like the NIV just for kind of quick casual reading. I don't really use it for my deep study, but I find it to be very readable. So that's helpful when you're trying to read something quickly. And I bought this Bible to turn it into a prayer Bible in 2023. Shortly after my son was born, and I just never did it. Like, I made this color code and I'm just going to take it out because I don't even have these highlighters anymore. Like, that is not the color code that I will be using. I have some little scrap paper in here. I glued that yellow scrap paper in there, and then I just never did anything else with it. The tabs, again, are from the Daily Grace Co. They're marble, and it's my goal for January to turn this into a prayer Bible. I really like how it points to Jesus throughout the entire Bible. I feel like these little asides are helpful to help you see Jesus in all of Scripture. And it's just been living on my nightstand as kind of the Bible that I would use to read Scripture to my family in the mornings when we used to do that. But our morning habits have shifted, so we don't even do that together in the morning anymore, which makes me really sad. Want to try to find a way to get back to that, but it is what it is. Anyway, so I guess maybe I'll make a video when I do eventually turn this into a prayer Bible. It's even kind of dirty on the cover, but I don't mind because ideally my prayer Bible will be used all the time, so it would get dirty anyway. But I really like this Bible, and I'm excited to turn it into a prayer Bible that I can use every morning during my quiet time with the Lord. So now I'm going to move on to Bible studies that I'm going to be using this year. So I mentioned the Bible in a Year Club with Felicia Masonheimer. And then in addition to that, this Nancy Guthrie study, the Promised One, is what I am currently doing with my Bible study group from church. I really like Nancy Guthrie, so this is not a dig at Nancy Guthrie, but the study is not my favorite. I think it's just the style of the homework is not my favorite. It's very kind of reading comprehension, like read this and then write down what it says in the verse. And that's probably really good for helping you retain the information, but I prefer questions that kind of encourage you to think about the text and take it a step further and make connections, if that makes sense. Not that none of the homework in here does that, but so much of it is just writing what you read, and I find it to be really tedious. It takes forever, and it's taking our group forever to get through this because there's so much homework for each week. It's taking us a week or two just to discuss the homework questions together, and then there's more discussion questions at the end of each chapter, and then we do a week for those discussion questions. So it's taking us a while, which is totally fine with me. The study itself is kind of seeing Jesus in the book of Genesis, which is really cool. But this is just not my favorite study. We did a James study earlier in the year, well, last year at this point, I guess, and I loved that one a lot. So just gonna kind of deal with it. Bible study is good for you, even if it's not fun for you. So that's that one. And then in my own personal study, I have a ton of studies from the Daily Grace Co that I need to actually use. I keep starting them and stopping them. So this one is on the book of Galatians, and I've started this one already. I'm not very far, But wait, this is Galatians, right? Yeah, it is. I also studied an Ephesians one that I didn't finish, but this is the one on Galatians. So I'm going to finish up this one in my personal study just whenever things slow down and I find that I have a little bit more time on my hands to go in depth. So that is the first study that I plan on doing in my own free time. And then I just picked up this study from the Daily Grace Co. on contentment, and the study is called, Is God Enough for Me? I really, really struggle with contentment. I totally have a shopping problem, a spending problem. It has been a problem my whole life. And I just really need to find contentment with where I am and stop thinking that buying the next thing is going to solve all my problems, because obviously only God can solve all my problems. So sorry, the heat just kicked on, so you're probably going to hear some background noise. But then moving on to faith journals, this is my prayer journal. I went over this one in my 2026 journals video, but I just plan on consulting this and using this a little bit during my quiet time in the mornings with the Lord, so I can remember the things that other people have asked me to pray for and things I need to pray for. And then this is my morning pages journal. I'm debating whether I want to use this to write out prayers to the Lord first thing in the morning. My worry is that I will find writing so tedious that I will just end up not praying at all first thing in the morning. And that's obviously not good. So we'll see. And then this is a journal I've had for a while where I'm literally just writing out the Psalms. As you can see, I started in 2023 and then I took a huge break and I did one in 2024 and one in 2025. So not super consistent in here, but I find sometimes if I'm really struggling with anxiety, writing out a psalm helps me kind of just quiet my mind. So I like it for that. If I'm ever going through a really tough time, that is something that I find really comforting to do. So that's just the notebook I use for that. And then for books, this book is called 31 Days of Prayer for My Husband. I started working through this. I got this one for Christmas and I'm on day 4, I think maybe. But I find this really helpful just to teach you kind of how to pray for your husband, give you ideas for how to cover him in prayer, and also just things to remember if you're having any conflicts with your husband, which I'm not right now, but I'm sure eventually will happen. Just reminders about how you can't change his behavior and shouldn't pray for him to change his behavior, but just focus on yourself and the Lord will change you to meet the occasion. I'm also working through these devotionals, New Morning Mercies by Paul David Tripp, and then my sister-in-law got me this one. It's called Mom Strong 365, and I really like that. And then this one, Daily Doctrine, is not really a devotional, but it just has a little blurb about theology every single day. I've been doing this one for a while. I'm on day 45, as you can see, and I just think this is so cool. I love going deeper and learning more about theology. But some of the concepts are a little lofty, which led me to ask for Systematic Theology by Wayne Grudem for Christmas. And my in-laws got it for me. I'm very grateful. It is huge. I do not expect to read this in a year or even 2 years or maybe even 3 years. I think it's going to take me a really long time. But I just really want to dive in and learn more about theology. Wayne is from a slightly different theological tradition than our family, but that's okay. I still like reading things from people of all biblically sound walks, and he's obviously an incredibly respected theologian. And he says in the introduction that he tries to present multiple views when there are multiple different views to be had. So I'm excited to dive into that. And then these are 2 nonfiction books that I got for Christmas: The Ministry of Motherhood by Sally Clarkson and The Christian's Handbook to Logical Fallacies. I started both of these and they're pretty short, so I anticipate finishing them this month, but just a lot of really good stuff in there. And then I recently picked up The Air We Breathe, as it was recommended by Wes Huff. And this is just about how Christianity shaped Western culture and Western morals. So if you hear an atheist say, I don't need God to be a good person, you actually kind of do, because the only reason you know what a good person is because of Christianity. And in the ancient world, they had a very different view of what made a person good or great, and it was evil. So I'm excited to read more about that. I also have this book called The Heart of Jesus by Dane Ortland. This is a condensed version of Gentle and Lowly by him, which I've also read. And I just kind of keep this little book in my quiet time basket because it's very short and sweet. And reading a chapter every once in a while, I just find to be very encouraging. So, really like that. That's something I've had for a while. And then my goal for 2026 is to finally read Mere Christianity. I don't know how I haven't read it until now. I keep starting it and stopping. So that is high up on my priority list as well. And that is basically the summary of my faith goals for 2026. Let me know if you're doing any good Bible studies or reading any good Christian books lately, or if you have any Bible recommendations, because I am a total Bible hoarder and I'm always willing to add more to my collection. But I am working on my shopping addiction, so maybe not. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.